I'm in the dressing room. 5 minutes before I come out, my gloves are laced up. I'm breaking my gloves down. I'm pushing the lever in the back of my glove, breaking the middle of the glove so my knuckle could pierce through the leather. I feel my knuckle piercing against the tight leather gloves on the everlasting boxing glove. When I come out, I have supreme confidence. I'm scared to death. I'm totally afraid. I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of being humiliated. But I'm totally confident. The closer I get to the ring, the more confidence I get. The closer, the more confidence I get. The closer, the more confidence I get. All during my training, I've been afraid of this man. I thought this man might be capable of beating me. I've dreamed of him beating me. But I always stayed afraid of him. But the closer I get to the ring, I'm more confident. Once I'm in the ring, I'm a god. No one could beat me. I walk around the ring, but I never take my eyes off my opponent. I keep my eyes on him, even if he's ready and pumping. He can't wait to get his hands on me as well. I keep my eyes on him. I keep my eyes on him. I keep my eyes on him. Then once I see a chink in his armor, boom, and one of his eyes may move, and then I know I have him. Then when he comes to the center of the ring, he still looks at me with his piercing look, and as if he's not afraid. But he already made that mistake when he looked down for that 1/10 of a second. I know I had him. He'll fight hard for the first 2 or 3 rounds, but I know I already broke his spirit. I'm supremely confident. I'm moving my head, he's throwing punches. I'm making him miss and I'm countering. I'm hitting him to the body, I'm punching him real hard. And I'm punching, and when I'm punching him, I know he's not able to take my punches. 1, 2, 3 punches, I'm throwing him butt punches and bunches. He goes down, he's out. I'm victorious. Mike Tyson, greatest fighter ever lived.
What led a troubled kid that had no future except a penitentiary to pull himself out of poverty and become the baddest man on the planet? Wealth, women, and pet tigers? It wasn't unusual skill, godlike reflexes, or strength. It was a destiny ordained by God. A mentality so focused and obsessed that no physical barriers could stop him.
To me, fear is the greatest obstacle to learning. And unless one understands fear, he could never learn as quickly as he should. And what I have done by having an understanding of fear and talking to the fighters about it, what I have done is cut the learning time, maybe as much as a half, sometimes more, depending on the individual. Now fear, may I mention that? Fear is like fire. If you learn to control it, you can make it work for you. If you let it get out of control, it can destroy you and everything around you. Or like a snowball on a hill. A snowball on a hill, you can pick it up and do whatever you want with it. But let that snowball roll down the hill, it gets so large if you try to stop it at that point, it'll crush you. So fear is like that. We learn to understand fear. Most people think of fear as something to be ashamed of, something to be really embarrassed about. But I teach these boys that fear is a normal, healthy thing.
Mike was in and out of trouble and arrested 38 times by the time he was 13. This is how he met Bobby Stewart, a juvenile detention officer who saw potential in Mike for boxing, and Stewart introduced him to the legendary Cus D'amato, and destiny was born. Cus D'amato. There's a lot that can be said about Cus and how he trained his pupils physically, but that wouldn't be doing justice to the intangible. We know he trained Floyd Patterson and Mike Tyson in the peekaboo style of boxing. But why does every great man from Patton to Bruce Lee and Tyson say there's more to this world than the physical, even if they all got famous through physical feats?
Cus was an interesting guy. He had the concept of fear down to a science. And most of his fighting was mostly psychologically. He believed the physical actuality of boxing was only 10% when the mind was 90%. He always believed in improving yourself and strengthening your mind. He was a strong believer that your body only purpose was to carry your brain. He believed fighting was your opponent's surrender, his total destruction. And he didn't think of it as, even though he said it was savage and ferociously, you had to do it in such a relaxed and calm state. A really scientific way of destroying. He enjoyed hurting the opponent.
Cus D'amato had Mike at the most moldable time in his life, from 14 to 19 years old. And he immediately started brainwashing Mike to become unbeatable mentally. He was so thoroughly saturating Mike's mind relentlessly without break. He even had Mike live with him so he could instill his mental conditioning nonstop. This was Cus D'amato at his most experienced. He trained 3 world champions and learned a thing or two about the peekaboo style along the way. The peekaboo style he taught Floyd Patterson back in the day wasn't the same peekaboo style he taught Tyson. Back in Floyd's day, the peekaboo was a less concentrated, although more balanced and rounded style with a few key differences. In the peekaboo, the fighter squares up with the opponent, which puts both fighters in a riskier position, while the peekaboo fighter relies on head movement to keep them safe. The style Floyd used generated head movement by bending at the back, while Tyson bended at the knees. This is because Floyd would also step back into a more traditional stance, but Tyson's version of the peekaboo was considered more focused and concentrated, yet less complete and balanced. So Cus's training had evolved over the years mentally as well as raw technique. And let's not forget, he tailored his training to suit Mike's gifts and temperament. The string of ruthless victories that came next was unbelievable.
Everything was that I'm invincible, I'm a savage, I'm ferocious, I'm the smartest savage. Sophisticated animal, smart animal, the lion and the fox. You know what I mean? I could beat the vicious guys and I could outsmart the slicksters. So I was pretty much didactic in that apartment.
Unfortunately, even though Mike Tyson was the youngest to become the world heavyweight champion, by that time Cus D'amato had died and never got to see the fruits of his labor.
I wanted to make Cus proud. That was my whole existence for fighting. I wanted to make him proud. If someone said something negative about me, he was the old man, he would attack them. He would do anything for me.
Mike became a worldwide phenomenon and a household name, with everything from mansions, exotic cars, tigers, and even his own video game, which was regarded as pretty good. Jim Jacobs was Mike's next manager. Jim was regarded by Cus and Mike to be honest, and indeed he was a good influence on Mike. But it wasn't long before Jim died of leukemia in 1988, leaving Mike with nobody who had his best interests at heart. And like with a lot of downfall stories, behind every great man, there is an even greater woman, who is usually stabbing him in the back. Mike married Robin Givens, and at first life was bliss, but soon their marriage started to unravel.
He's got a side to him that's scary. Michael is intimidating, to say the least. I think that there's a time when he cannot control his temper, and that's frightening.
And without realizing it, Mike was losing what made him the greatest that ever lived, his focus. While he was going through his divorce, his attitude outside the ring started to resemble the person he's most famous for today. Belligerent, albeit hilarious quotes in interviews.
The 6-1 underdog. Are there any concerns on your part?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know nothing about numbers. I just know what I can do. How about kill this mother?
Without Cus D'amato or Jim Jacobs, Mike was no longer a supremely focused being with one thing on his mind.
Mike, is it frustrating to train like you did and then have this in 7 or 8 seconds?
For this fight, I only trained probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks for this fight. I had to bury my best friend, and I dedicated this fight. I wasn't going to fight. I dedicated this fight to him.
A new promoter had weaseled his way into a young, vulnerable 21-year-old Mike Tyson's life. A 21-year-old who had no experience except boxing and the street life. No training on how to handle money or world fame. This new promoter was the infamous Don King, who had a track record of crime and ripping off boxers including Muhammad Ali. Under this new contract with Don King, Mike had to give up about 30% of his fight earnings. Not only that, the accountant that looked over every invoice and expense that Don King charged was an accountant that Don selected himself, so Mike never noticed that his money was being siphoned. After years of overcharging Mike for every little service, Mike was broke and in massive debt, which led to a $100 million lawsuit, which got settled out of court for only $14 million, which mostly went to pay for his debts. Mike Tyson ended his career with a record of 50 wins, 44 by knockout, and 6 losses. This channel makes high-quality documentaries on the famous, infamous, and the interesting. Let me know who or what you want to see a video on in the comments, and I might just put it on the to-do list. Hit a sub on it and never miss a new video.